Welcome. In this video, we will discuss about the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda. So we will focus on the context like which day is celebrated as his birth anniversary, the significance behind it, the other events which took place on the same date, as well as we will try to understand more about the Birsa Munda and the Munda rebellion. So let's begin. The first thing we need to know is that the Prime Minister paid tributes to tribal leader Birsa Munda on his birth anniversary of 15th November. The state of Jharkhand, carved out of Bihar, officially came into being on Munda's birth anniversary in 2000. So basically, which is the formation day of Jharkhand state. So Jharkhand state was formed on 15th November 2000, and it was formed on that day in order to commemorate the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda, who played a very huge role in the tribal rebellion during the pre-independence times. So Birsa Munda was a young freedom fighter and a tribal leader whose spirit of activism in the late 19th century is remembered to be a strong mark of protest against the British rule in India. So when you are reading about the modern Indian history, you might have come across that we have also studying about the rebellion from different perspectives. So there are civil rebellion, there are peasant rebellion, and there are tribal rebellion. So one of the very important rebellion which were undertaken by the tribals against the British rule was under the leadership of Birsa Munda. So let's try to understand who was he, what was that revolution all about. So let's begin. So when he was born, he was born on 15th November 1875, and he belonged to the Munda tribe in the Chota Nagpur plateau area. So the area where his prominence or his influence could be seen is actually the Chota Nagpur plateau, which is now is a part of your Jharkhand. So he was born in that area. He was also known as Dharti Aba, or the father of earth. Birsa Munda is known to have mobilized the tribal community against the British and had also forced the colonial official to introduce law protecting the land rights of the tribals. So the colonial times, during that time, they have came up with the idea of inculcating the lands from the tribals, and a lot of land was being kind of taken under control by the British official. But this particular rebellion, after this, we will see in the upcoming slide that a particular law itself came into place because of this rebellion, which protected the rights of land of the tribal people. So such was the significance, or such was the influence of Birsa Munda. He also started a sect known as Birsat sects. So having gained awareness of the British colonial rule after the efforts of missionary to convert the tribal to Christianity, Birsa Munda started the faith of Bir Seth. So Bir Seth is basically a kind of a sect which has a different kind of customs, which is a kind of a faith community which they will follow a different kind of custom as compared to other. So he get to know that a lot of missionaries who have been active in India during that time is trying to convert the tribal people to Christianity. So he came up with the idea of the Bir Seth sect. Members of Munda and Oraon community joined the Birsat sect, and it turned into a challenge to British conversion activities. So at that time, while the missionaries were in work of converting the tribals into Christianity, Birsat sect posed them a opposition where the people from Munda and Oraon community particularly started getting converted or started joining the sect of Birsat. Further, he urged the Mundas to give up drinking liquor, clean their village, and stop believing in witchcraft and sorcery. So you can assume that Birsa Munda was also progressive from his point of view, that he said his community members or the people who were going to join the Birsat, then they should not believe in witchcraft or sorcery kind of thing. They should clean their village. They should stop drinking liquor. So these are the few customs, you can say, which has been a part of the Birsat sect, which was started by the Birsa Munda. So these are the few details you could know. Now let's quickly understand about the Munda rebellion. So it was led by the Birsa Munda in the south of Ranchi in 1899 to 1900. So when was the Munda rebellion was happened? It happened during the 1899 to 1900. In your history book, you will also read something called as Santhal Rebellion, which was also along the line of the similar region, on the similar region where the people were, again the foreigners were trying to get to their land. And Santhal Rebellion, it happened, in fact it predated the Munda Rebellion, it happened during the 1859. Just remember, out of like not completely associated with the Munda Rebellion, just try to make a piece of it, or like try to recollect it, that Santhal Rebellion also was regarding the tribals who tried to protect their land, and it was actually during the 1859, so it predated the Munda Rebellion. But Munda Rebellion is considered as one of the most important tribal rebellion of India, and the time period in which it was active is 1899 to 1900. The movement identified following forces as cause of misery of Mundas they were suffering. So basically, what are the causes why the Mundas were suffering? So this rebellion actually pinned down three causes. What were those? First one was the land policies of the British. So how the Britishers were trying to get their land, that is considered as one of the major cause of the misery for the tribal people of the Munda community. So that is one of the major reason, because they are also trying to destroy their traditional land system. Then the Hindu landlords and the money lenders were taking over their land. So instead of the land remaining with themselves, the tribal people who had the original rights over it, it was getting transferred to the Hindu landlords or the money lenders. And finally, missionaries were criticizing their traditional culture. So the missionaries were coming to the tribal people and trying to convert them. And while doing so, they are also criticizing their traditional culture, like they are not clean or they do not follow a particular sect. These kind of things were also like being sermoned by the missionaries. So these are the three major things which were highlighted that was causing the problems for the tribal people in the Chota Nagpur Plateau region. So the Ulgulan or the Great Tumult, so that is something which is, it became to be known as Ulgulan or the Great Tumult as the movement came to be called, aimed at establishing Munda Raj by driving out the British. So the idea was that the tribal people, the people who were the natives of that land, should be the one to govern it or rule it, and they should push the Britishers out. Munda used traditional symbols and language to rouse people, urging them to destroy the Ravana, which were like Diku's outsiders and the Europeans, and establish a kingdom under his leadership. So basically, Birsa Munda urged people that the European power or the people who are coming from outside, they used to call them as Dikus, they are the Ravana, the titular character of the epic Ramayana, where Ravan depict all kind of evils which could be embodied by a person. So Birsa Munda actually kind of aroused people by saying that we have to destroy the Ravana and we should go towards a Raj where like in my leadership we could have a different kind of a system of governance altogether. Birsa's followers began targeting the symbol of Diku and European power. For an example, they used to lit up the police station and the other posts which were associated with the European power. So they actually targeted. They also raised the white flag which would be symbolizing the Munda Raj over there. So that is also some activities which were done by the people who were following the Birsa Munda. But what happened? Birsa Munda was later jailed and he died of cholera in the jail and the movement faded out. So at a very young age, Birsa Munda died of cholera while he was in the jail, and he got arrested while he was sleeping there while preparing the guerrilla warfare. So that is something you need to know about the Munda rebellion. Now let's quickly understand what kind of significance it had on overall region as well as our freedom struggle. So it forced the colonial government to introduce laws so that the land of tribals could not be easily taken over by the Dikus. So the Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act of 1908 is the exact what you can say direct consequence of the Munda rebellion. So it was the consequence of Munda rebellion. Just remember when you are reading your modern history, the Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act was because of the Munda rebellion. Then also in an overall freedom struggle, it showed that the tribal people had the capacity to protest against the injustice and express their anger against the colonial rule. So moving forward, also a lot of tribal movement happened throughout our freedom struggle, and we do discuss about them as a tribal rebellion, and it kind of is significant from that aspect that tribal people could also launch a protest against the British rule. So these are the few things you need to know. So I hope you have understood this video. If you have any doubt, feel free to drop a comment. Thank you.